Hey everyone, TJ for TJOmega.org here at Metrocon 2013, and sitting beside me, the one and only Phil LaMarr.
Yes.
Thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you. I got the low chair. I don't know.
Yeah.
No, I think you're just torso tall.
Wow. I'm not usually taller than this. That's weird to me. No, first off, thank you for coming. Takes a brave man to come to Florida in July.
Yeah.
Now, I've been a fan since Mad TV. I can pick your brain for hours, but we've had long days.
Exactly.
So you'll excuse me if this is a little schizophrenic.
Fine.
Right. Now, the one credit I kept seeing everywhere that I just made the most curious.
God, I hope it's not the one that's wrong. Go ahead.
The George Carlin Show.
Ah, no, that's actually correct. There's a Naruto credit that is not correct.
Really?
Yeah, I've never done Naruto. Yeah, the George Carlin Show back in 90 or 91, that was like one of my first like serious network gigs, like more than one show. It was not what you would call a successful show. Even though it had it had George Carlin, had Sam Simon, one of the co-creators of The Simpsons and a writer on Taxi. But they were trying to distill George's vibe into a character, and it just didn't really work.
Yeah, I've seen little bits of the show because the whole thing isn't available, and it's little bits of a stand-up in between sitcom stuff, and it's not.
It wasn't good.
Doesn't show for us. But yeah, I have so much respect for George, and I know he's on Mad TV in your last season. Did you?
Right after I left.
Oh.
Which was such a bummer.
Man.
Which was such a bummer.
Yeah, because the way that show was filmed, I couldn't tell whether or not you had.
No. I think I left in October of '99, and he did it in like January of 2000. Yeah, that was that. And along with Susan Sarandon and Kathy Bates and like all of these like stars, like great. When I'm on the show, you get Kato Kalin.
What? Phil's gone? Okay, now come on.
Yeah, now the show's a hit.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about a show that another show. You joined Avatar, The Last Airbender.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of late in season 2. What is that like going into a show that's already this huge thing and just this amazing cast they put together?
Well, the thing was, at the time, Avatar wasn't as huge then as it is now in terms of overall impact. Because at Nickelodeon, like Dante had just mentioned on a panel, at the beginning, it was so far removed from everything else. Nickelodeon was a little kids network,
right?
And Avatar is most decidedly not a little kid show. And it was so detailed and so just excellent. It was great to be on it. Most of the people who were on it were friends of mine, Gray Delisle, D. Bradley Baker, Mae Whitman, people that I knew and loved working with. So it was really a joy, and I was so excited to be able to, do more than one episode. And it was, although the hardest thing about it was that Andrea Romano, the voice director, said, "You know what? For the Earth King, it's just your voice." What? Yeah. And that is sometimes the hardest thing to do.
Right.
Is nothing.
Maybe you can answer this for me, because I know a lot of Avatar fans. I know we worked with Mako on Samurai Jack, and no one was really sure when he passed away, whether he finished season 2 or if he didn't.
Well, it wasn't actually that he passed away. It was actually, he was getting sick before he passed away, and his vocal quality began to change. We weren't doing Samurai Jack. We had been finished with that for a time. But I remember when he started getting ill, they were casting for people to voice match him for Avatar and also for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the last animated movie.
Oh, right, because he was Splinter in that one.
He was Splinter in that. And because I remember auditioning for both of those. And I didn't get Uncle Iroh, but I did voice match him for Splinter. And it was very weird, but I remember listening to the tracks like, well, this is the last stuff. And, you're used to Marco having so much power in his voice. But those, last few months of recording, you could tell that, the voice was still his voice, but it was weaker. And I think they actually started the wheels in motion to replace him before he actually passed away. Just because, I'm sure the last thing he wanted to do when he's undergoing treatment is like have to get up and go do a cartoon.
Right.
But I'm not exactly sure what the date was. But it was around the same time as the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie.
Okay. So the mystery continues.
Exactly.
All right. Tell me about this one. This is another credit that caught my eye. Cowboy Curtis.
Yes.
How does that come about?
Well, I was not the original Cowboy Curtis. That was Lawrence Fishburne.
Of course. I wonder why he couldn't make it.
I am the post-Matrix Cowboy Curtis. I know Paul Rubens because we have a lot of mutual friends from The Groundlings, which is a LA comedy troupe that we both belonged to at different times. And we had done a show together, and he decided to bring the Pee Wee character back for the first time since '91. Like, he had not done the character since the Saturday morning show went off the air, except for the MTV Movie Awards.
Oh, right.
And I think that was maybe '92. So in 2010, he decided to bring the show back on stage. And he called me and said, well, I'm thinking about bringing the show back. I'd love for you to audition for Cowboy Curtis. I'm like, yeah. I mean, how often do you get a chance to, step into, well, it's funny, it's like being on Avatar. You're stepping into something that is a certified cultural phenomenon, you know, without having to do any of the hard work of building that, because someone else already did it 21 years ago.
It's handy that way, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a blast, because he's literally a genius.
It also interests me because there's elements of the show that were added in, but it's still the original performance.
Did you see the HBO version of
yes.
the Pee Wee Herman show?
Because it wasn't Cowboy Curtis, it was Captain Carl, which is why the cowboy has a seashell for some reason.
Wait, we kept the seashell.
Yeah.
Because there were jokes in there that Paul just didn't want to lose.
Right.
And the plot line is the same.
Yeah.
It was Captain Carl who liked Miss Yvonne, and in our version it was Cowboy Curtis. And that was, the reasoning behind that was twofold. One, when Paul did the original Pee Wee Herman show on stage, he just used the people in the Groundlings that were there. And they were largely all white. And so when he did the Saturday morning show, he made a concerted effort to make it more ethnically diverse. And so now he's bringing it back on stage. He knows he can't go back to the original stage show and ignore the Saturday morning show. Because the Saturday morning show did not have Puppet Land. It didn't have that whole world.
Right.
So he had to fold the world of the Saturday morning show into the original stage show. And the way he did it, I think, was pretty brilliant.
Yeah, it's such a good blend of both of them.
Yeah, and it's funny because people came to that show and they said, oh my God, the Playhouse looks exactly like I remember it. And the Playhouse looks nothing like the TV show Playhouse. Like, if you freeze frame them side by side, you're like, oh my God, the colors are completely different, the dimensions are different, but it doesn't look the same, it looks like you remember it.
Right.
And the designers did an incredible job.
Right. Well, in the vein of taking over other roles, you kind of have this kind of sub-career of replacing Chris Rock. Both in the Madagascar games and Ozzy and Drix, because only I remember Ozzy and Drix.
Yes, you're the only one. Well, like the Oscars a couple of years ago, Chris Rock said, voiceover is great. They pay you $1 million and tell you what to say. And the fact of the matter is, sometimes they don't have $1 million. And when they don't have $1 million, they don't call Chris, they call me.
How do you approach that, though, as opposed to creating a new character or, putting a voice to a character arc to someone's, as opposed to well, this was a Chris Rock character, now you have a go?
It begins as an impression, because that's what they want to hear. They want to capture the thing that made them hire that celebrity. Mm-hmm. You know, inevitably though, if it's a series and it goes on, you're called upon to do things that original actor never did, and perhaps couldn't do. Mm-hmm. And that's like in Ozzy and Drix, we ran into trouble because they would start writing scenes where Ozzy gets emotional, and then they say, doesn't really sound like Chris Rock. That's because Chris Rock has never done a scene where he gets emotional. He doesn't do that. And if this was Chris Rock still playing Ozzy, mm-hmm. you'd write that scene out. And he would say, you know what? What if he just... And he'd pitch something really hilarious,
right.
and the emotion would go by the wayside. But now, I'm doing it the way Chris Rock would do it if he could, act... If he was acting the character of Osmosis Jones and really needed to feel something. And it doesn't sound like you remember it.
Right.
But yeah, I've voice matched Chris Rock in Ozzy and Drix, and also in the Madagascar movie, the Madagascar Games, and there was a recurring character he had on King of the Hill, and he wasn't available to do it, so I came in and did the later appearances of the character. I also voice matched Jimmy Smits as Senator Bail Organa in Star Wars: The Clone Wars. What else? What other ones have I voice matched? I think those are most of the recurring ones that I can think of off the top of my head.
Well, looking through your resume, speaking of, well, in a little vein of Ozzy and Drix, you're so well known for all these heroic characters. I know you're a huge comic book guy. Mm-hmm. A lot of voice actors I meet seem to prefer playing the villain. Do you have a preference to the heroic side, or?
No, I mean, it's funny because people will a lot of times ask actors about the choice of mm-hmm. roles they play, and really, unless you're Tom Cruise or Tom Hanks, you don't really have a choice. I mean, especially in voiceover. We audition, and then they choose us, I mean, and a lot of times it's all of the same folks. Like for Young Justice, I auditioned for Aqualad, right alongside Kari Payton, Kari's audition was better, and then I was fortunate enough that they asked me to do Aquaman, based on my audition for Aqualad, which was interesting. It was like, is it black Aquaman? It's like, no, it's just regular old white Aquaman. I'm like, oh, okay. But I've played a few villains. In the Jack and Daxter series, I've played a couple of villains. Count Viger and GT Blitz. What else have I played villains? Yeah, I don't know. At some point, it becomes just a certain quality that people associate. Like if you have a voice, if you have a voice like Steve Bloom,
oh yeah,
you're going to wind up playing a lot of villains. Yeah, I don't have a preference. The short answer attached to the long answer. I'm happy to play whatever juicy role they toss my way. And, although the heroes usually get to have more episodes than the villains.
This is true.
So I'm not knocking my hero work at all.
Yeah, I have yet to see the Lex Luthor cartoon. It just doesn't work.
What I'm saying.
What do you think of how comics have changed today? Between reboots and summer events and just.
I have mixed feelings about it. I'm very happy in terms of the reboots and the New 52 and all that stuff. For years, I've railed against being slaves to continuity. Mm. For me, part of what made the Justice League animated series so good and the Batman animated series was that they were not slaves to every version of Batman that had come before.
Right.
They could take what was good and throw out, the crappy stuff. There's no reason a writer in 2013 should have to be stuck with some weird power or gray kryptonite because somebody made a bad, editorial decision in 1978.
Right.
And for the reboots, I like that. The fact that they're saying, you know what? we're going with the best characters, not the most, autistic fan-friendly characters.
Right.
Oh, you can't move. You can't. He's always. The cape has to be exactly 7 inches above his boot. That said, I do actually have issue with changes for change's sake.
Right.
A New Day, Spider-Man. Come on, dude. That was dumb when they did it on Dallas in 1980. You can't just wake up and erase things, unless you're just erasing them.
Right.
Like DC did with the New 52. After a couple of decades of well, we're going to do partial. No, it's a new world where now the Earth, all of that was just crap. It's like, you know what? We don't want to do the dumb old stuff anymore. We don't want to have 9 flashes. We want 1. And so we're going to do that. All right, everybody? And of course, comic book, fans being, basically junkies.
Right.
We said, no, you can't. When's the next issue come out? Comic book heads are the same. They're going to show up on Wednesday no matter what, even if it's just to buy it so they can complain about it. Man, all this cocaine is horrible. Where can I get some more? We're junkies. Actually, we're worse than junkies. Junkies don't show up on the same day of the week.
This is true.
Junkies at least wait till they're out. It's like, well, I actually haven't finished all my heroin, but I heard there's some new heroin that just came in, and I really need to get it because I'm a completist. So, I mean, my feelings about comic books are large and varied. I'm still, for some reason, stuck in superhero comics, like I'm 12. I read a little bit of stuff outside of that, but that's where my heart is. And you want to see it done well.
Right.
I don't care if it's the same. I want to see it done well.
Right.
And it comes and goes. It's hard. It's hard to write characters that are 50 years old.
Yeah, it's just so hard to keep them relevant.
And to do new stuff.
Yeah.
That's not dumb. I mean, Scott Snyder brought me back to Batman. Because I didn't read any of the Grant Morrison Batman Incorporated. So I'm like, okay, this is getting a little too Suits on USA Network for me. It's like, well, Bruce Wayne is investing in Batman, and everyone knows it. Like, really? That's not going to cause any suspicion? Okay, whatever. But this new 52 stretch, I love. I've been loving it. Although I don't like the Joker with his face shaved off.
Oh, God.
You know what? Since you brought this up, I'm going to take a second to rant about that.
Sure.
The fact that, because we're grown-ups.
Yes.
And we read comic books.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for years there was this whole thing, because people who don't read comic books think comic books are for little kids.
Right.
And there was a real, feeling in the comic book industry that it's like, we're an art form. We want to prove that we're not just this little kiddie, we're not comic strips. We're not Family Circus, goddammit. And so they've spent so much time and pushed so far to prove that they're not for little kids. And now we've gone so far that, I would put a Playboy magazine over a copy of The Punisher so my kids can't see it. Because at least Playboy magazine has no decapitations and disembowelings.
True.
I mean, Hit Girl and, Kick-Ass are funny and fun as a comic book person who's grew up on comic books, and it's very meta. Mm-hmm. But as an introduction to an art form, it's awful. It's like if D.W. Griffith made Saw. It's like, no, this is not where we want to start. This is not an entry point for anybody, And I would love to see more comics like Mark Waid's Daredevil, which can be read by adults, and it's something that I don't have to worry that my kids are going to flip open and see, Catwoman and Batman and having intercourse.
Right.
Would that be Caddy style? I don't know what that'd be. Because the dog eating it.
I really don't want to think about it much.
No. You can have something for adults that doesn't have to be adult. Just because there's no comics code thing on there doesn't mean you have to go against everything that the comics code said you can't do.
Right.
So that's my rant.
It was a good rant.
Thank you.
Thank you. And lastly, and I don't know how long I've been waiting to ask this.
What?
Do you ever miss the UBS shorts?
I actually have them, so no,
Oh
I
my
don't miss them.
God.
I have, well, I have the shorts from the show.
Mm-hmm.
I also have the shirt that I used when I did it at the Groundlings, which is an actual UPS shirt.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have the UBS hat from the show. I always hated the fact that we had to call it UBS.
Mm.
That was like, it's like if we had lawyers who were like bolder, they wouldn't let us use it.
Yeah.
But well.
Well, it's one letter off. It's basically just one bump
And
off.
right, and if you just, yeah, exactly. I mean, it didn't really matter. That's why I never fought it. But
Yeah, I just thought, coming down here, God, I wish I had those shorts.
they were a little tight. They were a little tight.
Okay. Maybe for the best thing.
Oh, they can't get in.
Ooh.
Oh, we should wrap this up.
Yeah, we probably should, because they'll get mad at me. They won't get mad at you. They'll take it out on me.
Exactly.
Right. But I really appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much for this. And stay tuned, guys. It's not all I'm doing. There's still more coming up. Metrocon 2013. Stay tuned.